So this is a webinar on how to make a virtual concert. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to premise this with what it is not and what our objective is. And so due to the specific and diverse needs of everyone, this is not a tutorial on how to use specific programs. However, there will be time at the end where you can go to a few different breakout rooms where there's some people in KCMEA who know specific programs, and so you can save those questions for the end. We just don't have enough time to get into every program out there. There's so many video programs, there's so many audio programs. We just don't have enough time to get into that. So what we will be doing is giving an overview and a starting point. Our goal is to show you, what all is involved, what you can expect when you dive into a virtual concert, and then how you can get started. So kind of a framework to organize your headspace with all of this, okay? All right, so this is the webinar outline. This is everything we're going to be going over. First, what's all involved, the step-by-step roadmap. We will show you what is all involved there. 2, we'll get into program recommendations. There's a ton, and so we narrowed it down for you. 3, we will do round table style tips for those pros who have already dabbled in this a ton. I'm sure they've learned some things along the way that they would like to share. And then 4 is a question and answer session that'll be breakout room style, divided into breakout rooms with people who concentrate on specific programs. Like David's going to talk about Logic in his breakout room. I'm going to talk about Canvas in mine, and so on. So you guys can look forward to that. So again, I just want to say I'm really happy you guys all are here and happy to see you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into what is all involved. Let's be real, it's a ton of editing. It's a lot of editing. It's a lot of editing, okay? Kind of your virtual concert roadmap is broken down into 4 different categories. Pre-production, setting yourself and your kids up for success, everything that happens before you start getting those videos. Production, collecting the videos and audio files from your kids. Post-production, editing, piecing together and perfecting the best that you can. And then of course, 4th is your concert. How are you going to present it? Is it going to be on YouTube? Is it going to be on Facebook Live? Vimeo, right? Is that right? How it's said, right? Yeah, awesome. Okay, so we'll go a little bit more into depth on each of those. All right, so pre-production. What is it and what do you do? So I broke this down into 3 different categories. First, creating a digital concert workstation, making sure you're staying organized because you're going to be getting a ton of submissions from your kids. And so it's important that you organize those and you set yourself up for success by either creating different files in your Google that are labeled by the songs you're doing, or however you want to do it. It's just important that you make sure that you are organized going into it. You will definitely thank yourself later. Creating click tracks. Now, if you have smart music, you probably don't need to do this, but basically click tracks are just a practice tool for the kids to play along with that keeps them all on tempo. And then also creating or finding a how to record video. It's important the kids know that they need to change those smoke alarm batteries because you don't want that going. It'll probably still happen. But let's try to mitigate it. There's already videos out there on YouTube of different directors and musical people talking about how to record. You could easily use one of those, or you could make it more personal yourself and record yourself just doing a how-to with the kids. All right, just a little bit more in depth on this digital workstation. Like I said, it's setting up yourself for just being successful. I have a little suggested workflow station there. What I use, I've got 1 file that's just labeled virtual concert. And then within that, I have 3 files, 1 for each of my songs that I'm doing with my kids. However, you guys can organize however you would like. Click tracks, the click tracks I've created for my kids, because we just got smart music. So I created all of our click tracks assuming we wouldn't get it. And basically I just recorded the MET if there was tempo changes in it, did a voiceover of, okay, this is measure 9. All right, now we're at measure 18. And then, did like a little, their part as well. And so they could kind of hear all of that together and listen to it while they're practicing. I gotta say, the first time I made the click tracks, I didn't realize how loud my verbal rehearsal markings were. And so I had that in my ear when I was doing some of the parts, and I scared the crap out of myself when it came to measure 9. I literally almost like threw my laptop because it was so loud in my in my ear. I went through and like turned down the vocal part. All right, and then the how to record video. Like I said, there's all kinds of stuff out there, but definitely for your kids, they would probably very much appreciate how to record video from their own teacher, especially if you're expecting them to do a recording of themselves to you. So things you could go over is where to set up their camera, what orientation do you want? You know, if you're using your phone, do you want them to record this way? Do you want them to record that way? Have a Met in their headphones so they're staying on time, and having no outside noises if possible, right? So don't record in your front room if it's close to a busy road. Maybe find a back room in your house or someplace that is a little quieter if possible. All right, moving on, we're into production. This is where some of the fun stuff begins and my personal preference. So starting with setting up a pacing guide for yourself and your kids. That might mean, setting up a roadmap. Okay, in weeks 1 and 2, I want you guys to have these measures, rehearsed, or weeks 3 and 4, it's, these measures are what we're going to rehearse. And, by week 8, this is when you're going to start sending me your videos. So whatever that looks like for you, make sure you're thinking about a pacing guide, not only for yourself, but also for your kids, so they know the long-term goal. If possible, run virtual rehearsals and or sectionals. Okay, I know virtual rehearsals can be kind of daunting because it's definitely not even close to the same. I've had a lot of success with them lately, and my kids have been giving me a lot of really positive feedback with that. Again, if you have smart music, this might be something that you don't necessarily need to do, but the kids might still appreciate being on screen, seeing each other's instruments, and kind of just still feeling that sense of unity together. And then after that, starting to collect your video submissions, whether that's via Canvas or Flipgrid. We'll go into some programs that you can use to collect videos. All right, and post-production. Here comes all the editing. If you're using 2 separate programs, one for your video and one for your audio, you will need to separate the audio from your video. You can easily do that from online conversions. Maybe David or Brent or Randy has some advice on this, because I feel like we kind of probably all do it a little bit differently. If one of you guys wants to jump in there on that topic.
Well, and David and Randy probably have ideas for this too, but typically, and if you have a video editing workstation or program rather, typically there's an option that's fairly accessible within there to separate audio from video. And you can save and export those as individual files, whether you're using Adobe, whether you're using Final Cut. That's been my experience with it.
Just to throw a couple of thoughts out there. Yeah, it comes down to you're going to be editing the audio in one place and the video in another for your own sanity. And ripping the audio off, there's a few tools out there. VLC is probably the most straightforward one that like comes in on most school computers as an option. You can go to File, Convert, grab all the videos, and say MP3. And it'll give you a whole bunch of MP3 files that you can use. Yeah, so that's another handy way to do that.
Yeah, and if you are in the Mac world, or you're planning on using Logic, and I think GarageBand does this too, because GarageBand is like the baby Logic. It really is just as simple as dragging your video files into Logic and saying open, and then it'll just convert it for you automatically. So straight into the program. Just for workflow, I grab only a handful of instruments at a time. So I kind of get a little crazy with sorting, tubas and horns and trombones and flutes and the whole 9 yards. And then I grab a stack of them in at a time. So they're all layered on top of each other, just because that's just for workflow. It works better for me that way. But it's just a direct drop in from, and if you're using Logic.
Awesome. Thank you guys for the feedback. I do really appreciate that. Along with many of you, I myself am learning along the way. And so some of those things I I didn't even know. I just went to an online converter and put my MP4 in, and then it shot out 2 files. So that works too. But from what you guys are saying, there's easier options. If I can just upload it into GarageBand or the Baby Logic. All right. So after that, you're going to import your audio into your program of choice and arrange. And then you're going to import your video clips into your program of choice and arrange how you would like that to go. And then you're going to put them back together. once you get your audio to where you want it, once you get your video to where you want it, then you put them back together and boom, now you've got your virtual concert.
One thing to keep in mind to maybe go back to the last slide, just in terms of lining things up, there are a couple things you want to take into consideration. And Randy and I have 2 different solutions to the same issue. It's not a big deal if you're using a piece where everyone plays on bar 1, measure 1, right? So if everyone has a vertical attack on the downbeat of the first measure, then you can simply use that audio, because all of those video and audio editing programs will show you the sound spike or the sound waves. And so you can line up where the beginning is. But if you have something with a staggered entrance, that's where it can become really crazy, because your program's not going to show you measures. What I do is I have like an 8-bar lead in, and I have all my kids play just a fat concert F on like beat 5. And I use like a fat or for strings open A. And that's the way I do it. And it works for me. Randy has a much more scientific method of doing it.
I don't trust kids to play in time for any of it, really. But so I have a beep. So my click track is, you hit, like, I send it to them as a YouTube video, because anything on the planet can play a YouTube video. But so like they hit play, and like 2 seconds in it goes beep, and it clicks. So it's like beep, click, 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 and then they have 16 counts before the song starts, and that gives them enough time to go beep and then plug their headphones in, because I tell them that they don't get credit unless the beep's in the recording, because that's what I sync it to. So I sync it to the original click.
So something, but kids will, like we said, inadvertently like mess up, the instructions, especially the first time. Then you're like, gosh darn, I need to put this kid in there. As you're getting the hang of it, you can, obviously get more complex. But if for your first one, for their sake and yours, it might be beneficial if like you pick a piece where everyone starts on bar 1, measure 1, preferably like a forte, just so there's a very easy starting spot to line up.
Yeah, it's the equivalent of back in the old-timey movies when they had the clacker. You could line up your video and your audio by when this hits itself, and you see a big spike from that.
I didn't even think about that. Those are super smart. I know when I've already started putting some things together just with kids' rhythm assignments they're turning in, I'm gonna do that. Thank you guys. That's oh man. But there's always gonna be someone that messes it up. All right, for concerts, virtual concert presentation. Definitely something to think about. There's all different kinds of platforms you can use to present your concert once it's all done. Zoom, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, I don't know, all of the above. It's whatever you want to do. I know I'd watched David Green's concert that he did, and it was super cool because he did it on YouTube Live. And it kind of felt, in a sense, like you're in a concert, because you had the anticipation of having to wait for it to start. You just couldn't click on the video and for it to start. And so it's kind of, it was cool. It was really cool. I know Brent was talking about Vimeo. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I had never heard about it until we talked about it the other day.
So I work at St. John's, and it's a private school. We actually use Vimeo to live stream all of our classes. We live stream, we basically have a master admin account, and we live stream to all of our classes, but we have an account on there that allows us to upload videos that are unlisted. And we basically listed those videos with a start timer on our website. And also on our school Facebook page as well. We set that to go live after uploading that. So Vimeo is very similar to YouTube. I guess you could call it more tame, more professional. So, and it's a little more secluded. It's not as much of a wilderness. It's a little bit more known entity. So that's why our school uses it.
Thank you, Brent. I really appreciate that.
Randy makes an excellent point that about Facebook versus YouTube in regards to legalese and such. If Randy wants to expand on that for a second.
You put a video on YouTube and Google's crazy smart. Within like 10 seconds of it processing it, you'll get an email that says, you have submitted a video that has The Tempest by Robert W. Smith. This is going to have ads on it at the bottom banner, and he will get money. If you do not have any problem with this, do not respond to this email. And and it's for any author, anybody, like Granger, all of it. Like, YouTube, and Google do not want to get sued, so they figured out how to pay all the people their mechanical rights for copyright.
Yeah, it's a little crazy. I uploaded a video of my band playing Christmas Festival. Not even like the real Christmas Festival by Leroy Anderson, like the watered down version of it, just because it was not a big deal. And I woke up the next morning to an email, I kid you not, from Leroy Anderson's son. Now he was like really cool about it because he wanted like to basically like you take our video and put it on his website, because he was like in this virtual and he was compiling this list of everyone across the country who had like done either Sleigh Ride or Christmas Festival by his dad. But was pretty wild to wake up, within like 9 hours of uploading, as I uploaded it and I went to bed, and then I woke up and was like, whoa, this is crazy. But yeah, YouTube is a little bit safer, I guess, because you won't get sued, and the composers usually are cool with it because, again, like YouTube will collect ad money and then the composers will get it, and we all just like to have our concert on there.
A note if Facebook catches something that's close to what its algorithms catch as copyrighted music, it will mute the stream afterward. So if you keep that up on your school or band Facebook page, it'll mute part of the stream. So especially be cautious if you're creating something and like use some music that you downloaded prior to it. Very easy to get a copyright strike there, or get part of your video muted. So
all really good things to keep in mind. Thank you, guys. I don't think I'll be using Facebook Live. All right, moving on. So I figured with everything that we were compiling and throwing at you, it would be a good idea to have somebody kind of put everything into perspective. Brent, are you still willing to share your screen and just show us a little bit of what you've done with your virtual concerts at St. John's?
Sure, I will share my screen here and get this up here. If you just give me just a moment. Thanks for your patience here. Alrighty. So I'll just briefly go over, this is just a little bit of what we had done. And this is basically what the final product is. I can talk more about it in the second part. Essentially, we used a stock footage site to grab some stock images or footage. This may be a bit loud, turn this down just a bit, but we had a bit of an intro with a countdown that you'll see here in a second. These were all things that I found either on the stock site or for free online that we added to the video. A little bit more advanced editing there. This is not necessary, but it is something that we added at the end here. So let me get here to our strings here. So smaller numbers at St. John's, but as you can kind of see, we used a click track with Sue Dockweather at playing the accompaniment as our bass line, and we had everyone basically stack on top of that. Everyone was recording in their ears to her playing, and then we lined it up to that. Now, despite what we asked kids, we asked them for it to be well-lit area. We asked for parents or their siblings or anyone to help if they could. With recording, and I also asked them for them to use their best iPhone or Android or iPad or whatever device that was possible for them to use. I sent out detailed instructions there. Like I said, you can layer these videos on top of each other. I happen to edit all the audio in Final Cut, and which was a little more difficult, I think, than probably pulling it to Logic or or Audition or Premiere, what Randy and David have done. But we basically sized the videos a certain way, lined up all the audio according to our click track and what Sue had put out. So we did this for multiple ensembles throughout. We also, what we tended to do was, well, let me see if I can find it. We had a lot of soloists. If you can see here, she's singing. Let me get to this part. I had a lot of soloists because I figured this would be a little easier to line up and easier for us to film. We also had some students on campus, which is a bit of an anomaly for most right now. I realize this, but so I tend to think that soloists, small ensembles are much easier to edit than 50 to 100 person bands, obviously, which is what David and Randy were doing. So there's a lot in this concert. It was about 25 minutes long total. And I would say that probably each, and Randy and David can speak to this, but each minute of editing kind of throughout the whole thing took approximately an hour per minute is what the general rule of thumb is. And I'm not typically slow at it. There are people who are faster and there are people who are slower in this, but we had a good time, and it was very well received. Like we said, we put it on Facebook Live. We put it on our website via, we actually have an encoder, but and a bunch of other things. So yeah, there's just a little bit of example for that. So thought I would share that.
Thank you, Brent, for sharing. Hey, just real quick, what program did you use for yours again?
Yeah, so I used Final Cut, but you can also use a very watered down version is iMovie, and everybody has that. You could theoretically, in a very rough manner, edit it on your phone or iPad. I would not recommend it, but if that's all you have, then maybe you put together small ensembles or you have duets. We had a lot of duets in our ensemble too. And we're actually planning a virtual spring concert where we're going to do a lot more of those small chamber-like ensembles and maybe one big piece at the end for student sanity and ours as we kind of move forward. It gets to showcase individual students. Again, this is for a smaller program. We have approximately 60 students at our max. So, and that's between all grades from 5th to 8th. So it's a little different, but it was neat to showcase them and put a little bit less pressure with the click tracks and so forth.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, so iMovie is the free version of stuff. GarageBand is the free version of stuff. The Pro App bundle is the paid stuff. Like, Final Cut is usually a few $100s, and Logic is usually a few $100s, and all the other fun stuff, MainStage, and all the other compressors and things and stuff in there is usually a few $100s. They do like an educator's bundle for like $200. It's a chunk of change. I'm not going to deny it. But if you're going to do any audio video editing, I'd strongly suggest $200 is going to save you enough hours and wine use to make it worth it.
It's also, you can also put it on your taxes, later on as an personal education expense. But yeah, the $200, is a chunk of money. But when you start figuring out that you're getting 5 programs, and by itself, like if you were just to go to the Mac App Store and buy it, Final Cut by itself is like $300, and then like Logic's another $200 on top of it. And you won't need MainStage unless you're a high school band director and or you're going to do like live sound in a drumline show or a field show or something like that. But yeah, $200 with your educator thing. And when I did mine, like you had to buy it through the website and use your educator email, and then within 2 or 3 days they sent you download codes to the App Store.
Can I jump in about iMovie just really quickly? Yeah. Okay.
Go for it.
You're up.
Okay, so just really quick, I'm not like a presenter or anything today. So what I did was, because I didn't know how to do any of this, so I figured it out. So I lined up when you drag a video like into iMovie, after a certain point, it just only shows the audio underneath the original video. There's like one kid's video, and then the rest is just audio underneath it. So that's got the visual, spikes and everything. So I was able to line that up. And so it was all the kids' audio with one video frame. So I saved all of their audio to this one kid's video frame. And then that was like my master. I just used that and then used a different program, another free one, to do the videos. And then it was like, that was the only one that contained audio. And then I just muted the rest of the videos to do that. So that's what I did with iMovie.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again here. All right, so let's get into program recommendations. All right. So like we alluded to before, there are programs that you'll probably want to use just for your audio, programs that you want to use just for your video. There's also some that do everything together. So audio only, we have GarageBand, which is Apple, the baby Logic, as David said. I'm just always gonna call it that now. We have Logic, Audacity, which is free, but it's old, but it works, and that works. I know it works on Windows. I'm not sure if it works on Apple. It does. Okay, Randy. Okay, it does. Pro Tools and Adobe Audition for audio only. For video, you can use iMovie, or you can use Final Cut Pro. Canva Pro, which is free for teachers, also does video. So if you're familiar with Canva already, I would definitely encourage you to check out their video function. It's super cool, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Adobe Premiere Pro also, your district may provide that. If you're a Kern High teacher, that is provided to you, the whole Adobe suite. You just have to talk to your AP, and who knows, in your district, maybe people already have, it might be already set up where you can get a subscription to the Adobe suite. Video submissions. There's programs like Flipgrid, which many of you may already be aware of. Canvas, if you're using Canvas, you can do Google Drive. I know some people set up folders on Google Drive that kids submit their folder or their video submissions right in there. You can use the Band app. They could submit their video through. It's just all different kinds of stuff. And then the all-in-one programs are Premiere, Adobe Premiere Pro, and Final Cut. So those are the program recommendations. Does anybody not see something on there that they like are super passionate about that they just want to throw out there? Feel free to.
Zachary Pierce does. He's saying Reaper. Zach, you want to talk about Reaper?
Yeah, Reaper is pretty much like Audacity, where you can insert a track. Yeah, you can use like virtual instruments, or you could pick a physical instrument with a pickup, plug it into your box. Like I have a Focusrite box, and you can plug in an instrument like electric guitar, electric violin, or your keyboard, anything that has a pickup in it. Or you could also, for tracks, you could also use virtual instruments again, or you could also have you could use a recorded track on Reaper, just like in Audacity.
Awesome. Thank you, Zach. I've never heard of that before, and I'll have to check that out.
We actually have a few people that are posting some good stuff in here. Maybe they want to quickly go through. We got Anna. You want to talk about Pick, Play, Post?
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know if any of you are friends with me in real life, but like I have posted like the acapella videos of like multi-frame. Okay, acapella is a really good program if you're going to record into it, like layer it on the spot, like and then there's Pick, Play, Post, which is the same developer, but it's for pre-recorded videos. And it's not free if you want to do anything over like 15 seconds. I think it's like $9.99 a month or something like that. But it's a neat little program. And actually, for one of my songs for my winter concert, I did use Pick, Play, Post. I think you could only have a certain amount of frames though. So what I did is like, I have 25 kids in this song. So what I would do is like do 5 videos and then save that. 5 videos, save that, 5 videos, save that. And then I did a whole new file and like did those chunked, you know what I mean? Math. So it took a little bit of time, but I did it. And it works well.
Thank you, Anna. I appreciate that.
We have DaVinci Resolve that Brent you've used before, or some people a couple people have posted that they've used DaVinci or heard of it, and Brent or maybe someone else wants to jump in about DaVinci that's used it, because I've never used DaVinci.
DaVinci is free software. It actually started. It's like a color grading software, but it's a full-on video editing program that you can download for free if you don't want to use iMovie or something like that and don't want to, spend $200 or more on the education bundle for Apple, there's a lot of information. It's a very well-known program, DaVinci Resolve. So it's great. Similar to Final Cut or Premiere, probably less features than both of those, but still able to get the job done.
Awesome. Thank you, Brent. I'm just going to do a little promo here. Canva Pro also does that, and it's free for teachers, which is amazing. You can do, which Anna, I've seen your videos and they're super inspiring. I love seeing the videos that you post on Facebook. So the videos where you see people playing kind of with themselves and have multiple frames, you can do that in Canva. And yeah, it's amazing. What's really cool too is like behind the video frames, you could add like a video too. So maybe you're doing like, I don't know, American March. So you could do like a slow motion frame of American flag, like behind the kids playing. And there's all kinds of stuff you can do with it that are, yeah, you just have to sign. Yeah, you do have to sign up for Canva Pro. And sometimes that can be a little bit of a headache because you have to prove that you're a teacher. So they have a little application process, and it'll take, how long did it take yours, Ben, to do it? Is that like a week turnaround?
No, I didn't even have to provide anything because I had Canva through my school district already. So it was actually very easy. It just took about 2 weeks to figure out where it was, and it's buried. They don't want you to know where it is. So I guess for financial reasons, they want to make money off of us. Go figure. But, I had to dig. And Stephanie and I looked for a while, and we still didn't. And she said, well, why don't you email them? And I tried doing that, and nothing really came. And just one day I found it somewhere. I don't know. I don't even remember where I found it, but it was very easy. Click, there it is. And now I've got Canva Pro. So
Awesome. Sweet, sweet, sweet. So in a little bit, we'll be in breakout rooms and I'll be talking about Canva Pro. And so if you're interested in that one, sorry, my dog is like howling in the background. If you're interested in that, I'll screen share and kind of show you what I've done with it and how, show you kind of how you can get started as well. Anything else anybody's dying to say before we move on from program recommendations?
Just one quick thing about both GarageBand and Logic. They have the ability to have software instruments in there as well. So when we did our virtual concert, we did one, we had full band pieces and they had full percussion, but I don't know about your kids. My kids don't have timpani at home. So, but we still had timpani and snare drum and bass drum covered because I was able to take a little MIDI keyboard and play all the parts in, with the tracks and make it sound like a timpani or a suspended cymbal or, whatever instrument was not available. And so those are some options in both Logic and GarageBand that are available to you. Yeah, that's a really good recommendation, David. Thank you for mentioning that. Yeah, I know when I've done some of the click tracks and I started recording some of our percussion parts, I've totally done that. Got my MIDI keyboard, plunked out some of the percussion stuff. Our bass drum itself sounds like somebody's stomping on the floor. It sounds horrible. And so the only thing is with GarageBand, because I haven't bit the bullet and got that Pro bundle you guys were talking about. I saw it though. I really want to get it. But anyway, I don't have the option for a concert bass drum on there. So it sounds like I found the best kick drum from a drum set that I could find, but it sounds like a drum set bass drum, but it works. So definitely lots of room for getting creative with that. All right. I'm sorry.
So I've got something if you want to hear it before we move on.
Yes.
Soundtrap. I had seen a video during the summer sort of recommending this method of doing it, where Soundtrap is essentially an online, say Logic. It's a recording studio kind of a thing. So I have the kids record their stuff in there, and they can hear the other kids as they're recording. If one person's recorded in, the next person can hear that person's stuff as they're recording their things in there. And then I can go in and add the timpani in on the real timpani and stuff like that. But then I use that audio and throw it into, so I have a two-step process. I do all the audio there. And then I've already had Adobe Premiere Pro, so that's what I'm using. Although I had no idea how to use it until this year. And then I have to make a separate video, but I'll take out the soundtrack that's in there, and they're playing along with the soundtrack, so to speak. So they're at the same time as what they recorded initially. So I put the two things together that way. But so I've been using the Soundtrap.
That sounds super cool. I just like totally wrote that down in my notes here. Soundtrap. That's really neat, Jeff. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna be looking that up. Can you manipulate the audio files that they submit if you want to turn something down or turn something up, and that kind of like you can arrange? Oh, awesome. Cool. Sweet. That's really neat. Okay, we have a question. Jeff, do you normally have problems with kids accidentally recording over the other kids in Soundtrap?
No. The part of the problem is they don't follow the directions. So a lot of times, they can do it collaboratively, and I have their names written in on the track, so they're supposed to find their names and stuff like that. But if they don't follow the specific things of what to do, they end up making their own separate file, and it's done through Canvas too. So, but it sort of creates their own separate file. So then I have to copy and paste from that one into the group project. So I haven't had that issue.
So does it integrate with Canvas then? Wow. Okay. Awesome. Cool. All right. Next, we're going to be talking about minimum hardware recommendations. So for those of you that have done this before, can you guys kind of speak up and let us know your experiences with, let's talk about students first. Minimum hardware recommendations for them. Do you like them to record on a phone? Do you like them to record on their Chromebook? What do you guys think?
An iPhone or like one of the Android phones out there usually does a decent job. I mean, the preferable recording way is to hook a microphone into a MIDI or into like an audio box or something like that. But I've actually been pretty surprised at how well an iPhone can do if you get enough space between yourself and the phone, so it's not overloading it.
My demographic is heavy on the Chromebooks, and my running thing is as long as I get it, a full ensemble with the recordings, I can make it work, because a whole lot of mediocre recordings put together sounds like a band. A couple of mediocre recordings, you hear the hiss, the pop, the things, the stuff, the feedback, the weirdness, and all that stuff. It's kind of like that beginning band concept. If you put 100 kids on stage who all kind of know how to play an instrument, you eventually get a B-flat scale.
Something to note regarding if you're going to go the iPhone or iPad or Android route for the phone, something that I was having trouble with is a lot of my kids, their phones would automatically record in 4K. Now you might think, well, great, it's higher resolution. They're huge files. So they would have two problems. They would have difficulty uploading them. It would time out if they were trying to upload a 8 gig video file or something, or it'd be really difficult for them to do that. So I always, in my instructions, do my best to both my parents and my kids, make sure that your video recording settings on your phone, or either your iPhone or your iPad or Android, are set to 1080p or lower. Otherwise, it can be a challenge. Also, speaking of minimum hardware requirements, anything the district gives you probably is going to have a lot of trouble editing in 4K. For that matter, I don't even know if the online programs like Canva and others accept those sort of files, because I imagine it would take up a lot of bandwidth and data for them. So that's something I don't know, but something to be aware of.
It's also super not necessary at all for anything in 4K. 1080p or lower, will do.
If everybody sends you a 480p video, 20 of them is still 4K.
All right, let's get into hardware recommendations for the big kids, us. All right, so what do you guys think is like the minimum for us to use for editing? Can I edit and make virtual concerts on my Chromebook, or should I use something else? What do you know?
I'd suggest a real computer. Do
Yeah.
not use a Chromebook. Be
Do
a
not
big
use a
boy or
Chromebook.
a girl and use a real computer. If you have to use a desktop or something from whatever, I suggest real computer. And for my, option that I'd throw out there, you could have a computer that's kind of old. If you're doing the video editing stuff, throw it all in there and let it batch it, because it'll try and like render out the frames and stuff. So my running thing, as you can tell, is I'll put the stuff in, I'll kind of line it up, get it close, and then when it renders, I'll go back and look at what needs to be fixed.
Just a note on Chromebooks. Chrome OS might not even let you install half of this stuff that we're talking about. In fact, I don't think it will. I don't think you can install the Adobe Suite on Chrome OS at all. So if you have a district computer or a home computer, those work much, much better, even if it's a low spec machine.
We had a couple questions down here. So kind of running back. Steve says, do you run into equity issues because all kids don't have an iPhone or a smartphone? We don't, because you can, the way we're doing it in Kern High, you can record through a Chromebook. Now, we tell our kids, if you have a cell phone, that is preferable because the cell phone will do a better job. But a Chromebook recording is better than no recording at all. And I know, like for us in Canvas, you can record straight into Canvas from like Chromebook, like the Canvas Studio, which like in the Chromebook browser. So there's, it's not as good, but you can, use that. Philip, you can have them and there are like some external programs in like the Chrome App Store, but you can do it directly in Canvas via Canvas Studio. This is a one for Randy, because Rob asked a question a while ago. Do you have anything about what is codec and why kids don't have the right one? That's a conversation I'll let Randy go over.
Which codec for what? The answer to, you can export the video from Canvas. If all your kids check the button for allow me to download it, it works great. I suggest you get there's a whole bunch of Chrome extensions out there for video downloading from within the browser. Like usually it's for like YouTube ripping. I have I don't know what it's called, like Smart Video Downloader, and it creates a cute little button on top of a video where I go download and it comes off to my my downloads folder.
Now, like with programs, like if I get Logic or if I get Final Cut Pro or those, obviously I'm gonna need a better processor in my computer, right? To get something like that. I wouldn't be able just to download that on an old computer and run smoothly, right?
I mean, most Macs will do, if your Mac is within the last 4 to 5 years, it'll run it. My wife, Kendra, she works at the Bakersfield Symphony Orchestra office in their education thing. And, we bought her the most basic MacBook Air 5 years ago, never envisioning that the world would end in 5 years or that she would have like this job in 5 years. And it would run, the Final Cut Pro stuff good enough. Now, it wasn't great, but it worked. The big thing for, just a tip on your computer stuff, no matter what you use, before you install anything new or get to work, it's worth to do a little housekeeping on your computer and clear out old files and programs and stuff that you don't need, to give yourself some hard drive space, because you will end up using a lot of it. I bought the Mac I'm using is actually a used one. I know, buddy. I know. But I bought this really it was barely used Mac Mini from Brent. And so I picked it up for him, and it had less storage space on it than maybe I would have purchased if I was doing it brand new, but he gave me a good deal and I had it. And I didn't need anything more than 256 gigabytes of storage space for the first 2 years that I owned it. And then everything went to where we are now. And so I've had to kind of continuously keep it clean. You can use external hard drives to store your stuff on, but if you're going to do hard editing, you really want to edit from the local hard drive, because it just makes things a lot faster.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. And thank you, Charlie. Charlie was giving his feedback there too. Okay, so the next little portion we have here before we go into the breakout rooms is tips. So we're going to do this roundtable style. So those of you that have done this before, this is your free-for-all to add tips, whether it's about click tracks or about holding out a giant concert F before they perform, or whatever might come to your mind. Ben's going to go ahead and edit this as we talk and add those in, so you guys can just go for it.
I got one. So I find, especially if you're doing video heavy concert, where, I mean, for a 50 or 100% ensemble, you can put videos, and I've seen Randy do this too, but if you're doing a video heavy concert with fewer students, it's really important. I think, first of all, audio quality kind of trumps everything else. Basically, you shouldn't like really focus on video. However, it is nice to have a bit of a focus on the framing of how you would have the students sit. So you don't want them to obviously get their phones and have like, you know, this close to themselves or something like this. I will give them pretty specific instructions and examples of how they should have their video framed. I typically have it in landscape mode. I, you know, emphasize well lit, have an environment where the light is coming at them, not from behind them. And you get a mixed bag when you're doing these sort of things. It's not 100%, but it is worth putting that effort in, especially if you're having smaller ensembles and the focus is more on them rather than the sound. And that was my experience when I was doing it. So audio first, then framing within the video.
Awesome. Thanks, Brent.
I've got
David,
one.
looks like you're
I have a-
unmuted. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, just it's obviously, if you've never done one, it can be overwhelming, and it was a little overwhelming the first time I rolled into it. A couple suggestions that I would have, kind of as like a warm-up version, experiment with something that's not a full band piece, and something like really simple, like an 8-bar or 16-bar chorale or exercise. Maybe everyone's playing like a B flat scale and triads, or I mean, something easy that you know your kids are going to be successful at as far as just the mechanics of playing the instrument, because they need to practice the process too. And doing a 2-minute band piece, you know, or 3-minute band piece the first time out might end up with a lot of errors if they're not good at it. So there's definitely no shame in, like, you know, like we're going to do B flat major scale and the whole notes at 80 beats per minute. The other thing is to, and I do this, I for whatever like your ensemble was playing at as far as grade level, just knock them down. You know, before the world ended, you know, like we were hitting some 4s and 5s at Independence, and I don't go over like 2.5, 3 when it's virtual. I mean, 3 is pushing it. It's because it's virtual, you know. I mean, it's hard to record clean. It's hard to teach. And, you know, let's face it, students aren't always as motivated to practice, to really shred out a bunch of 16th notes every day, you know, like they would be in your class when you're going to, you know, crack the whip and make them do it. So thinking, you know, a grade level or so below like where you think they would play it in real life, I mean, it'll end up being a little bit more successful, and it gets them into the process, and it creates, you know, or eliminates some headaches later on.
One of the things that I've done with my groups, I have them do, before they do their performance video, they do a dress rehearsal video. And so like when I first started doing it, I show that, like, because a lot of them just freak the crap out, not knowing what they're even getting themselves into. So when I first did it, I slapped together the audio. I was like, this is what your dress rehearsal sounded like. You know, give them a feel for what is going on. And yes, I spent some time in Logic, and I went like, wow, this kid got way ahead. Let's shift that bar where it belongs. And I fixed a few of those things to give them a bit of confidence to actually go through and record it. Now that they've made it a little bit into it, like this last video that I had them do, like the dress rehearsal, and then what I did was I gave them back. So my click track is actually like, you know, backup audio of what they're playing. So they're playing with the virtual band, so you know that way they have some sense of pitch and whatever they're trying to go with, because you just give them clicks and sometimes they didn't do their instrument and they have no idea where that goes. One of the things I actually had that I got a real kick out of, that I think worked, and this is only like last week, was they did the dress rehearsal, and I sent them back their audio, but the audio is individual to each kid. So like I just like bounced out their audio with the mix, and I sent it to them, and I said, okay, your assignment for aesthetic valuing, one of our wonderful curriculum things we're supposed to hit on, is like, your aesthetic valuing is to listen to you. And in the current COVID world, I want a reaction video. So I got a bunch of videos of kids listening to themselves. And it was awesome, because some of them did nothing, and you could just see the flinches and the things and stuff. Some of them talked to her, like, wow, I really do play late there. Wow. You know what? Mr. Bennett's right. F natural is not the same as F sharp. and you're like, you'd hear some of those things. So there's a little bit of a realization moment, but they finally started to hear them, because originally I said, like, here's your audio, listen to it and give me some comments. And they gave me some comments. And you're like, you didn't listen to your audio. So the reaction video went a long way on that one.
What'd you have them, what programs you have them use for that?
All my kids are on Chromebooks. I'm using Canvas Studio Straight. Like, the assignment is, here, open this, and then hit video record on Canvas, and then hit submit.
Oh, okay.
I use the Canvas Studio for all of the video.
Nice. I was like thinking of like those reaction videos that you normally see where you can see like the person up in the corner like reacting. I'm like, how do they put all that together?
No, but it's just, they're just getting audio. So like, I don't care if what's going on with the video part. I want to see what they are learning from listening to themselves before they play. Like, and that's always the day before the performance concert day.
Awesome. That's a super good idea. Thank you.
To add another thing regarding something to think about when you're trying to put these things together that we ran into, you kind of need to tailor student expectation and how and what they expect when they record. I had a lot of students who were pretty overwhelmed when it came to recording, and we had younger ones. I guess this is probably relevant for high school too, but specifically our 6th through 8th grade is what we are dealing with. And just encourage them to be patient, and that it's difficult to record and get things 100% right, especially because these kids will be listening back to themselves and then sending their recording in. I really leaned on giving them a lot of time ahead of time. We were doing those digital rehearsals prior to, and we even had the opportunity to do just me and a kid 10 feet away with a microphone. But even then, even with me facilitating the recording in that session, it was stressful. And we went over 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times even on something that on a kid who was very strong musically, who otherwise wouldn't have an issue. So I think it's important to tailor expectations and make sure the kids are emotionally taken care of as well, as because this isn't an easy process, even with a click track behind them. I know a lot of them have never done something like that before.
Great things to keep in mind. Thank you, Brent. Anybody else want to jump in here? I see Jeff's got himself unmuted.
Yeah, I have a alternative presentation that I came up with for our winter concert. For the fall concert, I just sort of did one long video, but I discovered that if you try to put it out as a compressed format, so it's downloadable of a downloadable size, the timing gets off for some reason. So it's the file is huge. So I came up, can I share my screen?
Definitely, go for it.
Okay, I'll just show you what I did for the winter one. So I sent out a PDF and put in links to my Google Drive. And so they would just click on it and it'd pop up. And so, this one is actually just audio only. And here's some solos and whatnot in here. This one's a video, but we did a variety of different things. That way they can download specific ones, not necessarily download everything, whatnot. So anyway, that's what I did this last time.
It's kind of like an interactive clickable program.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a creative take on it. That's cool, Jeff. All right. So how we're going to work the breakout rooms. We'll have 4 rooms going on here. Room 1 will be with Mr. Green, and he is coming from the high school perspective using Logic. Room number 2 will be Ben and I, high school and junior high perspectives using Canva Pro and GarageBand. Room 3 will be Bennett, and he's coming from the high school perspective with Logic, Adobe Premiere Pro, and Final Cut Pro experience. And then in room 4, we have the infamous Brent Williams, who is crazy about Apple products, who is coming from the junior high perspective using Final Cut. And I believe he has also Adobe Premiere Pro experience as well. And so what we'll do here is if you put in the chat box 1, 2, 3, or 4, we will place you in the correct breakout room, and we will go ahead and get started with that. So give me 1 second here to get that all taken care of.